Usually when I talk about Nintendo, I'm talking about either how good their games are or some kind of weird shenanigan that Nintendo tends to pull off on a corporate level. But today I'm actually going to talk about something base that they did. Two base things, actually. First, the fact that they released the Metroid Prime Remastered via Shadow Drop. Nobody saw this one coming, and it looks phenomenal. I mean, as far as remasters go, this is one of the best. It looks so freaking good. I mean, you can see it's a night and day difference in terms of character models, lighting, textures. They really reworked this and really modernized it and made it feel fresh. And if you go to Metacritic right now, you'll find that the scores are incredibly high, just critical acclaim across the board. And to boot, they actually priced this lower at $40 for both digital and physical. It's hard to think that Nintendo would do this, given that, something like Skyward Sword HD, which was essentially a remaster of Skyward Sword, and I feel like less effort was put into that, was sold at a full price of $60. But here comes Metroid Prime Remastered, which is one of the most thorough remasters I've seen, priced lower. It is a 20-year-old game, but it still holds up, and, I think Nintendo could have gotten away with pricing it at $60, but the fact that they actually went and did the right thing and priced it at $40, pretty based. So this is a great development right here. And I was hype as fuck when I was watching the Direct live and saw it happen. If you were there, you know what I'm talking about.
The original Metroid Prime game is remastered on Nintendo Switch.
Yo! That just came out of nowhere. Oh my god, this looks so good. Oh, I can already see the graphics improve. Oh my god, this is sexy. Wow, look at Samus's character model. Oh my god, look at Samus. Look at this lighting. I am so getting this.
The version of Metroid Prime Remastered launches on Nintendo eShop later today.
What? What? Today? What the fuck? So, kudos to Nintendo on this front. And then I want to talk about something that they did that goes counter to what a lot of companies are doing. Companies right now are laying off a bunch of developers. Games news outlets are laying off a bunch of people as we head into a recession. But Nintendo decided to go subvert expectations by promising a 10% pay hike, even as it trims profit outlook. It's not just the fact that we're headed into a recession that makes this move kind of unprecedented. It's also the fact that Nintendo underperformed financially. Not to say that the Switch is selling poorly, just didn't sell as well as previous, quarters or whatever. The growth wasn't what they were hoping it would be, and that's what investors look for, growth. And so it reads right here, as reported by news outlet Reuters, on Tuesday, Nintendo said that it plans to lift workers' base pay by 10%, even though a firmer yen forced it to trim its full-year profit forecast. Now, part of it might have had to do with the fact that the government encouraged companies to keep workers around and make sure that they're compensated during this inflation period. This comes in after calls by Prime Minister Fumio Kishida for Japanese companies to pay workers more as inflation takes hold in an economy used to years of deflation and stagnant wages, and as Japan prepares for its annual spring round of labor negotiations. Now, I don't believe this was necessarily a mandate, but rather the government saying this is what we're encouraging companies to do to weather out this economic storm that we're headed in, and Nintendo abided by this. And there's another report here by Kotaku that delves into further details. It talks about how Nintendo announced the 20% Switch sales drop in its latest financial report, but still plans to institute a 10% pay raise. Usually when a company is seeing a markdown in sales or they're just not making as money as they used to, one of the ways that they'll mitigate costs and one of the ways that they'll try to balance out their financial aspects is by firing workers. Instead of leadership taking responsibility, they'll put the onus on workers and they will lay them off because it helps save money. And the workers who had nothing to do with the poor leadership are punished for leadership's decisions that led to a lower financial result. But in this case, we're looking at a scenario where a company is making employees whole during a rougher financial period. And apparently this is not just something that's happening right now, but rather something that's been happening over the course of months. Some say they have already seen substantial raises over the last couple of months. So this is something that is actively happening and has been happening for some time before this report even came out. So this is great that employees are actually, being treated as valuable assets to the company rather than as disposable, expendable tools. Nintendo president Shuntaro Furukawa acknowledged here when they talked about the situation that it's important for our long-term growth to secure our workforce. A mindset that not many other corporations and companies share. As Kotaku highlighted here, this is a stark contrast to recent layoffs and cost-cutting measures at Microsoft, Electronic Arts, Take-Two, Ubisoft, and others. And again, for Nintendo, this is during a time when they didn't perform financially as well as they would have liked. These raises were announced during an earnings presentation that otherwise included disappointing news. Switch sales fell. Nintendo actually announced it will make less money during its current fiscal year than it had previously planned. Now, it's not just Nintendo that's been doing this. Other companies like Capcom and Bandai Namco have also been giving raises during this financially straining period. As reported by this tweet by David Gibson, nice headline to raise Nintendo salaries by 10%, but in the context of low-paying game jobs in Japan, Square Enix and Capcom increased salaries by 30% to retain and attract talent, all while maintaining margins. So Nintendo's not necessarily leading the pack on this front, but it doesn't change the fact that raises are still ultimately good, and good on Capcom and Square Enix for also instituting something similar, actually going even higher with their salary raises, 30%. I guess financially they performed adequately enough that they're able to maybe give higher raises. And also they do want to attract talent, so they just want to make it more lucrative for people to sign up and work at these companies. Regardless, employees being treated as valuable assets and just as human beings who, need money, especially during financially straining times, and just actually not being punished for leadership decisions that might have led to downturns in financial results and whatnot. All that stuff's ultimately a positive result. Just in general, Japanese companies seem to have the right idea, while many American, Western, and European companies seem to be, treating their workers as you'd expect corporations to treat them. And I'm not saying that this suddenly makes companies like Nintendo pure corporations. I don't think there is such a thing. Nintendo will still, on some level prioritize their financial standing, and I'm sure they'll make plenty of shady decisions in the future. But I say, when a company does something that is ultimately a positive, that's also worth talking about alongside the negatives. It's worth encouraging the positive things. Kind of like when people praised Nintendo back in 2014 when Satoru Iwata, realizing that it was his fault for Wii U's failure, decided to take a 50% pay cut alongside many other executives. Shigeru Miyamoto also took a pay cut, and this is one of those moves that's just so unprecedented that everyone talked about this, and stuff like this is what Iwata's legacy will be remembered for. Iwata was just genuinely a kind and empathetic leader, and he genuinely acted as a leader who took responsibility when he failed and didn't punish employees for his decisions that led to corporate disappointments. So some pretty based headlines with Metroid Prime Remastered and this salary increase that is a stark contrast to what many other gaming companies are doing. Now, I know there's discussion surrounding Zelda Tears of the Kingdom being priced at $70. There are some discount programs that are happening and stuff like that. Generally, I do get the sense that bang for buck wise, I would probably personally pay $70 for Tears of the Kingdom and still have a great time with it, because the game's probably going to be huge and I can probably spend dozens to hundreds of hours on it. But at the same time, people are, wondering whether a $70 Switch game, which isn't really a next-gen title per se in terms of its technical limitations and whatnot, the graphics fidelity and the kind of production value that's going into it not being on the scale of some of the $70 that we're seeing from more modern hardware consoles. People are questioning whether that's justified. Everyone will have a different stance on that. But at the very least, as far as Metroid Prime is concerned, they definitely nailed the shadow drop, and the pricing and then the salary increases also is a thumbs up, and hopefully a model that more companies will follow. But this is just something that I wanted to report on. I think it's worth talking about the wins. And with that, thank you for tuning in, folks. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on Nintendo's recent activities. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.